போயிட்டு இருக்கு வேணும் ரொம்ப அருமையான ப்ரோக்ராம்.
Good morning. Welcome to the August 20th, 2014 meeting of the City of Palo Alto Historic Resources Board. That seems very loud. Would staff like to call roll?
Chair Kohler,
Here.
Vice Chair McKinnon, Board Member Bernstein, Board Member Bowell,
Here.
Board Member DeSicio,
Here.
Board Member Vandenberg,
Here.
Board Member Wimmer. Here. Thank you.
And staff is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oral communications. Are there any members of the public? I do not have any cards. Okay. Agenda changes, additions.
Wait, Roger, look.
Did card?
You had a card, Roger, sitting
I did?
there. One. Whether it's on the agenda or on the project.
I'm sorry, I do have a card. I have a card from Mark Weiss, who would like to speak to us. You have about 3 minutes or so. Please state your name and proceed. Thank you.
Mark Weiss, 1788 Oak Tree Drive in Palo Alto. I spoke to this board, or a previous composition of this board, I believe in 2011, regarding the Stanford professor and artist Nathan Oliveira, who had taught at Stanford for many years and had passed away in November 2010. And he also had a studio in downtown Palo Alto for many years, 209 Hamilton, sometimes called the Sons of the Golden West building. I think currently it's office space for Institute for the Future and some other startup technology firms above. Lala was there in recent years. And at the time, I wanted to note the cultural role that Professor or Painter Oliveira had played in town as well as on campus. And generally, I like to speak out on behalf of cultural contributions from Palo Alto to the world, or from Palo Altans, because I think they get underemphasized relative to technological contributions. And I think I wrote a letter to the editor. I think also Gail Price around that time wrote what became a proclamation from council regarding Nathan's role, posthumously his role. And I think I even started circulating an idea about, could we the people purchase 209 Hamilton? It would be quite a venture, and revert it to artist studios and or a museum for some of his works. So I was pleased, even though that idea didn't proceed very well, but I was quite pleased when I heard that Stanford actually broke ground for a home for some of Nathan's works, and it's very near completion now. It's called the Windhover Contemplative Center, and it is across from Roblé Gym, and it's next to the Papua New Guinea carvings. It's kind of near Tresidder Student Union, and it's very near completion. They've taken down the scaffolding, and it's a 4,000 square foot building. What I understand, it has no electrical wiring. It's all just a shell of a building, and beautifully done in wood and stone. And I think they said Iden Darling Design created it. And it'll have some of Nathan's large-scale works. They're based on an abstract image of a bird's wings, and the title was suggested by another artist mid-creation of the works. The works, I think, were shown in '95, and it references a Gerald Manley Hopkins poem. But I think, again, I'm more all about Palo Alto, and I'm not a Stanford affiliate, but I think it is a nice thing for the entire community, and I hope this board and the rest of the public gets a chance to visit the Windover Contemplative Center. There's also a lot of other art projects going on campus, and also we the people here in Palo Alto procured permanently a large-scale bronze Oliveira recently that's in the courtyard of the Art Center. So anyhow, thanks for your time this morning, and look forward to hearing the presentations that are more current.
Thank you. That'd be something to try to see at some point. Any agenda additions, deletions? I'll move on.
No.
Okay. Any minutes? There's none to approve at the moment. So we're now opening the public hearing. Our first item is 2275 Amherst Street, application by Margaret Wimmer on behalf of Ken DeLong for Historic Resources Board review and recommendation regarding proposed alterations and additions to a residence initially constructed in 1893 that is listed on the city's historic inventory in Category 2. The project includes a 200 square foot recessed patio with access from the proposed basement and a new stairway from the existing porch. The existing service porch on the west I think that's supposed to be elevation, will be replaced by a one-story, 169 square foot addition and an open balcony in the second floor. A 49 square foot dormer is proposed at the third floor attic. A request for home improvement exception has been filed to allow the proposed dormer at a height of 38 feet 3 inches to exceed the maximum allowable height by 8 feet. Where the existing structure is 40 feet in height, in 40 feet in height, okay. Zoning District R1, environmental assessment, exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act per sections 15331, historic resource rehabilitation, and 15301, existing facilities. So we would open with, I guess, staff comments. Oh, and Margaret, you have to.
I'm gonna go sit down here.
Could I ask a question? Because in the old days, when a board member had a conflict, we had to leave the room. Is that, what is the situation on that?
My understanding is if there's the form of company, if it's a sole proprietorship or of that sort, the applicant is allowed to be presenting to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, so if there's no other. Okay, so
Okay.
Margaret Wimmer, the applicant, has confirmed that is the case.
All right.
So she's allowed to present the project.
Sure.
It's her firm. So I wanted to, Amy French here, wanted to present Christy Fong, who is the project planner, as well as I have asked her to help out with the HRB as the HRB liaison. I will also be attending these meetings following Stephen Turner's departure, but helping to have more coordination. So I wanted to introduce Christy and let her introduce the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you for the introductions. The project description is detailed in... Does it work better? Okay. So the project description is detailed in page 3 in the staff report. There are 2 letters received from neighbors yesterday. A copy of these letters are available for your consideration. In responding to the concerns on lot coverage and floor area ratio, a table is prepared to show the project is in compliance with the municipal code. An arborist report was also submitted by the applicant, and the urban forestry group was satisfied with the proposed protections measures on the heritage oak tree. The Historic Resource Board does not specifically review and recommend on the request for a home improvement exemption, but to determine whether the project that incorporates an HIE conforms to the secondary interior standards of rehabilitation. Since the project is subject to discretionary review, the HRB can impose conditions and approval to ensure the project is in compliance with the secondary standards. The HIE process follows after the HRB recommendation. As described in Attachment A in the staff report, the project is rated as compliant with most standards, and where it is marginally compliant, conditions can be used to bring the project to mitigate the impacts. Since the material and color board has not been reviewed by staff as the conditions of approval, staff recommends that the HRB appoint a subcommittee to review the proposed material for overall consistency with the character-defining building features. In summary, staff recommends that the HRB reviewed the project with respect to secondary standards and recommends that the Directors of Planning and Community Environment conditionally approve the project as compliance with the secondary standards based on the findings in Attachment A and subject to the conditions of approval in Attachment B in the staff report.
I had a quick
Questions for
question
staff?
on
Sure.
just that. I know. Does this project then go to the ARB as well?
No, it does not. The
Oh.
process is a staff level review process on the home improvement exception.
So it's staff that approves the home improvement?
That's correct, the director,
not
right,
the-
with the recommendation of the HRB and the Secretary of Interior Standards.
Any other questions? There's only 4 of us. I keep looking around and it's not much. Okay. So, any other questions for staff? Okay, so I was thinking-
One of the members of the public that wrote to the board asked about the height limitation and the fact that the addition of the dormer exceeds that. Can you talk to that point briefly?
Yes, that's correct. There is a home improvement exemption request submitted to the department, and the height limit for this district is 30 feet. The proposed dormer is approximately 38 feet in height. So it's still under the existing structures, which is 40 feet in height.
Okay.
Oh,
No, wait, I have to.
yeah, may I?
Yes, sure.
I should divulge that I made a site visit to this house, and in the process, talked to a couple of people passing on the street, and there appeared to be a great deal of interest and some angst around the HIE and this dormer, and is this kind of HIE available to the R1 zone people as well, or is it only related to historic structures?
The home improvement exception is a process that allows any existing home that's retaining a substantial portion, at least 75% of the exterior walls in place, to request this exception. And it does have to do with design and architectural character of both the existing home and the neighborhood.
And the neighborhood.
Yes, but it is not just the domain of historic
Not strictly
homes.
historic, that's what I thought. And does this also involve areas such as what the view, for instance, from the back balcony would be of neighboring properties? Is that kind of concern about privacy part of?
So the single-family individual review program in the R1 zone has the requirement for a guideline about privacy, and that's looked at. The threshold for an application be subject to the individual review program is an addition of 150 square feet or more on the second floor or on the upper floor. And this project does not meet that threshold. So it's technically not subject to the individual review guidelines. However, it is subject to discretionary review, and we do listen to the public if there is concern about privacy.
All right, thank you.
I guess I should disclose I drove by and paused and looked around the project a little bit when I was there last week. Anybody else? Okay.
Oh, and of course, I attended the past tour that's located, poster up there, and have been in the house in years past.
applicant. Yeah, I'm just, so the applicant, what about the guest?
They make their presentation.
Okay, so the time now for the applicant to present comments or on the project.
Hi, I'm Margaret Wimmer, and I'm here on behalf of Ken DeLeon and Sam Benzakar from Creative Habitat, who's also acting as a active member of the project as a project manager. So basically, this beautiful home in College Terrace is a Category 2 historic residence for many reasons. It's a great example of Queen Anne Victorian architecture. It was built in 1893. It's been remarkably well maintained and is mostly intact to its original form and use. I know in reading some of the historic information about the history of the home, it had been used, I think, for a hospital or a boarding house at one time, which makes it kind of interesting. But for the most part, the interior and the exterior has just been nicely maintained over these years and has never been really compromised in any way, which is great. So these are some of the old photographs that Beth actually had told me that were on the Palo Alto History website. They're not tremendously old, but at least it gives us a view of what the house had looked like in previous years. In this, I noticed in this photograph in 1977, the railings were not there. Maybe they were being installed or being replaced at that time. But as you can see, the house is pretty much the same as it stands today. Here's a couple of other nice photographs. The house is located on almost a half an acre. And the property, I believe at one time was much larger, and it faced, the front of the house faced California Avenue. So you can tell that the original lot size was much larger than it is now. But it is quite a large lot considering the size of typical Palo Alto lots today. There's a lot of wonderful character-defining features on the home, as you can see, that are still in existence. There's a belt course here between the first and second floor with a fish scale type of shingling. There's a beautiful spandrel railing that goes along the front porch. There's beautiful brackets in the bay windows. There's some really neat decorative windows, and also this very stately railings along the existing front porch that wrap around. What we are currently proposing to do is, now that Mr. DeLeon has owned the house for a couple years, he has several children. He's currently living in the home, and the home has these grand spaces and multiple living areas and a very generous dining area. But what's really missing is that fabulous kitchen. So that's one of the motivations of doing the remodel, is to allow for this house to have a kitchen that it really needs, so he can entertain in a manner and live in a manner that he would like to live in. The side of the house that we've chosen to do the expansion is where the current kitchen currently is, and there's a service porch. There's a utility service porch, which is this current addition here that we don't believe is a historic. It's not a historic part of the house, just because the detailing is not consistent with what would have been done at that time. It might have been a screened-in porch or something that was later filled in with glazing. And this is a little picture of the interior, so you can see that the quality of the construction isn't consistent with the original house. So also this service porch extends in front of, this is the existing wall back here. It extends in front of that 5 feet. So our addition and this is just a picture of the kitchen and how it really needs to be updated, and it doesn't really serve the house as it should. So the addition that we're proposing is 6 feet, where the existing, this is the basement. Let me just go to the next slide to show that this is the proposed first floor. So this is the existing service porch here that comes out 5 feet. And so what we're proposing is to remove that and have an addition that's the entire width of the side of the house, and have it come out at 6 feet. So that allows for us to maintain the floor plan of the first floor, add a powder room here, have access down to the basement, and have an adequate kitchen with not a tremendous amount of impact to the existing footprint of the house. And then this would be the impact on the second floor. This is the addition of the kitchen below. So instead of creating a second floor addition, we've opted to make that into a balcony space that's accessible from the master bedroom. Also, there on the existing first floor, there was a full bathroom next to the kitchen. We're eliminating that bathroom to expand the kitchen. So the second floor really is lacking a children's common bathroom for these 3 bedrooms. There is an existing bathroom there that's for the master. And then also that allows us to have a stair up to the 3rd floor and the attic. Because of the steeply pitched roofs in the attic, it's a wonderful space up there. It already has 3 gables. It has this gable and this gable. It has a smaller gable here, and then this is the tower on the front corner of the house. So what we're proposing to do is be able to utilize that space. Here's the stair that comes up, and at the stair landing, this is where we want to build a new gable that looks off to the side. This is that balcony below, just to add a little bit more usable floor area because of the steep pitch of the roof. There's a lot of area actually. I know you can't really see this very well, but this dotted line, this area is all below 5 feet from sort of this perimeter line here. So the usable area is in the center as it's based under the roof ridge, and then this little area would be a usable space. There's that. Here's the front. So this is the existing front. So the existing front, the proposed alterations to the existing front, this is the existing drawing, this is the proposed drawing, is actually just a little addition to a stairway that's going to go from the porch down to a recessed patio that allows for the basement. It's a patio for the basement, a new basement.
Could I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
The existing front that you're referring to does not face Amherst?
That's correct.
So it's
a little bit confusing, sorry. So,
yeah, it
so
really
the
is.
front of the house I'm considering has the front door. It's the proper front entrance.
Well, but, okay.
And that is not facing Amherst. Amherst is
Okay.
in its.
All right.
So just orienting to the house, the orientation of the house. So the front actually faces California Avenue. I think you have a site plan there on your drawing.
It was somewhere here.
So as you look at the site plan,
I'm looking at the first page site plan, and when I
the
stopped...
front of the house is
when I-
on the right.
Okay, but isn't to the left California Avenue? When I came up
That's
California
Cambridge.
Avenue, I turned right, and then the house is here, so...
They don't
Yeah,
go through anymore.
Exactly. They've subdivided the lots. Yeah. So the front of the house is facing Cambridge. Is that correct? Sorry about that.
Chair Kohler, there is in the staff report a map of the historic report, and page 2 of that map gives the whole block. So you can see the position of this property with the hatched lines. And so it shows where College and California Avenue are with respect to the property.
So right, the front of the house faces California Avenue. The rear of the house is facing Cambridge Avenue.
Well, that helps, thank you.
Okay. So I'm just considering the front of the house where the front door is. So this is the Amherst side view, the existing Amherst side as it is today. And these are our proposed alterations. This is the existing, and this is the proposed. So the alterations are just here where we're extending the first floor and the basement 6 feet from the existing original house line, which is here. We're removing this 5-foot service porch. So this is the impact here, just this addition. So this is what I'm considering the rear, although this is the elevation that faces Cambridge Avenue, sorry. College Avenue. So this is the existing service porch that we're proposing to remove. The addition will start at this corner and continue 6 feet for the length of that elevation. This is the existing drawing elevation, and then this is the proposed. So this is the entire width of that existing wall. We're going to do a 6-foot addition to the kitchen and to the first floor and to the basement. This is the balcony on the 2nd floor, and this is the proposed gable up on the 3rd floor. This is the existing interior side. So this faces away from Amherst. This faces the backyard. And so with that elevation, we're proposing, this is the addition at the kitchen on the 1st floor, and we're proposing to develop the basement below. And with that development, we're proposing to have patio doors that go out to a recessed patio. So with the recessed patio, we're linking the recessed patio to the existing porch by means of a stair. And this is just a detail of the proposed gable that we're adding. This is the existing picture of the existing gable. This is a detail of the gable that we're proposing to add in the 3rd floor. This is a detail of the addition and all the materials that we'll be using. Because the addition is the width of the existing house, we are proposing to extend all the existing materials that are on the historic home, including the belt course here with the fishtail shingling, all the trim, the siding. We are required to have a guardrail at that balcony that meets code, which means that the top of the balcony has to be, the top of the railing has to be 42 inches in height. Because the belt course comes up part of that height, the floor of the balcony would roughly be in the middle of this belt course here. So what we're proposing to do is add an 18-inch guardrail of painted wood spindles that are similar to the spindling that's on the front porch, but not an exact match. So there's a company that sells a lot of different details and parts that would be perfect for this home. So this is just a sample of what we're proposing to use. These are the windows. This is a collection of all the new windows and doors that we're going to have made for this remodel addition. And the areas that we're taking windows away, we are going to repurpose those. So there's a couple of windows that are going to be removed because of the remodel. We're going to replace those in areas that we can use them. These windows, however, in the kitchen, they need to be shorter just because of the kitchen cabinetry. So we're matching the existing width of the window, of the historic windows, but they just, for size requirements, they need to be a different size. So there's a company, a local company called Artistic Millwork that will fabricate an identical window for us. They also have restoration glass that I've brought a sample of, which looks like the old glass that has the modeling in it, and they have a way of reproducing that. And it's also safety glass. So the glazing it's a clear glazing, but it'll look just like the old glass. This is just a detail of the railing that we're proposing to go from the existing front porch down to the recessed patio. This, we feel like we really need to almost match identically because it's a connection, it's an extension. So we're going to use the same detailing and just have a craftsman match that. This is just a detail. We basically only have this one sconce, exterior sconce, and then we'll also have some lighting down in the patio, some exterior wall-mounted lighting. So this is a light fixture that we've selected for that. This is that map. So you can see on this parcel report that this property has a lot of underlying lot lines, but it's much larger than the surrounding properties. And I don't know if it's an appropriate time to discuss the height of the gable. I'd like to make a comment towards that, and also of the calculations of the floor area. The maximum amount for this lot, because it's so large, the maximum floor area ratio is 6,619 square feet. Palo Alto requires that the maximum size for any residence even though, is 6,000 square feet. Even though the lot might be able to accommodate more square footage, a single structure can have a maximum of 6,000. And this house is currently under that. The existing house, which includes a 688 square foot detached garage, is 4,257 square feet. What we're adding is 169 square feet to the first floor. We are expanding the basement. So the footprint of the basement will basically match the same footprint of the first floor. However, because it's a basement, it doesn't count towards the floor area. But I will point out that in the Palo Alto ordinance, if the level of the first floor is over 3 feet above the finished grade, then the basement counts. And that is our case.
Could you repeat that? I couldn't hear it because of...
Sure. I'm just talking about basements and how typically they don't count towards floor area unless the level of the first floor is over 3 feet above the finished grade. And in this case, the finished floor is 3 feet, it's greater than 3 feet above grade. But I believe in the historic ordinance, they allow us to exceed 3 feet and still have the basement floor area not included in the floor area calculations. Also,
I think that's a big issue here because it's not so much the historic ordinance as it is the building department.
Right, because I've researched this, and it does say in the historic code that it doesn't. But regardless, even if we did have to add it, we're still well under the 6,000 maximum for the main structure.
Well, the issue, actually, I should disclose that one of the mentioned participants in this project, Sam Benzikar, is a former client of mine. Hi, Sam. Well, my issue is that I just, from the building code, have you reviewed it with the building department that they're not going to ask for 2 exits on the upper floors?
Yes.
They say you don't have to have it?
Yes, that's no
Okay.
longer a requirement, yeah.
Okay.
Besides, I think the balcony could be considered an emergency egress. And there's also an existing balcony on the front. Oh, you were talking about the third floor.
Yeah.
It's not. A single stairway is now currently what the code requires.
Well, the historic homes I've had to work with, we did the oldest home in Atherton, and we added a basement, did all that. We had to have it. We added a second floor. We had a second stairway up there. And another home here in Palo Alto, we had to add a second stairway. So I just think you have to, before you do all this work, make absolutely sure in writing that they're going to.
I have researched that because I've had that same experience at 450 Kingsley, a project that
I'm just saying you have a sign off from the chief building inspector in Palo Alto that you can do this.
Okay.
Do you? I mean, that's what I'm asking. Has he said in writing that you're going to be okay?
I don't have something in writing, no, but it is.
So the project has been routed to the building department, and they approve it with conditions. So the conditions will be addressed in the building permit process.
What are the conditions? They're in the report here?
It's not in the report. Basically, it's the genetic conditions that.
Okay. All right, well, I just think you should verify that because
I will absolutely investigate that, yes.
our experience with the building department is that they're not always so lenient on this, and this is an historic structure, but even so, there are some issues in historic buildings they will not waive. So, and safety is one of them. I think there's, anyway, okay.
I will investigate that. So I guess my statement here is that we don't exceed any floor area calculations, and we don't exceed any lot coverage, just because the size of the lot is so generous. I know that I reviewed the letters from the neighbors, and that was one of the concerns that they had, was the expansion could possibly exceed what Palo Alto, the limits of what Palo Alto has, but we do not exceed those limits with this design.
I think what we should do at the moment, if you're completed with your presentation.
I just wanted to say one thing in terms of the new gable that's facing, this is the new gable. So because of the height of that gable, yes, it's approximately 38 feet in height, where the maximum is 30 feet, although this entire structure exceeds the maximum. The height of this existing structure is 40 feet. There's really no way for us to bring the height of that gable down to 30 feet because of the geometry of where the floor of the third floor is and how it needs to be built in order for it to work. This is really the only height option that we have. And that's why we applied for the HIE, just to exceed the 30 feet height of the top of that proposed new dormer.
Okay, I think what we're going to do at the moment, because somehow we didn't get the order of this correct, that there is a card here from the public, which I think was supposed to come earlier. Is that?
No, it's after.
Well, according to your.
After applicant.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Public.
All right. Now we can have questions, I guess. If you have anything else, we can just proceed with
I
questions.
think that sums it up.
Okay. Questions of the board?
I think I have still questions about exactly why the gable needs to be so high. Now then, I know that there was some comment about the stairway, but did you at all consider it down a little lower and using something like a window seat? I noticed that in one drawing, chairs were put in there. Did you consider lowering a bit and using some built-in seating, which can work under not quite such a tall, and also shaping that dormer to the configuration of the dormer, the peak of the dormer, rather than insisting on straight up walls as high as you want.
Well, just to give you a quick reference, and I know it's really hard in this drawing, this is the gable, these are the gables that are on either side of the building.
Right, yes.
And when you're standing in that third floor area, the bottom of that ridge is 6 feet. So I'm almost 6 feet. So that roof is coming down like this when I'm standing up there. So that's why we've pushed the new dormer a little bit higher. Ken's a very tall gentleman, and so we wanted to try to bring the ceilings up in that third floor area, because I don't think Ken can even stand under there. Really, it's not comfortable in the existing dormers, and we're keeping those dormers, the existing ones there. Obviously, we're going to sheetrock them and make them into little seating areas, but this one at the top of the stair needed to be a little bit taller, just in order to allow for more headroom. And another thing I might say is, originally we've actually pushed this dormer back, so that originally we had designed it to be forward, where the face of the second floor wall continued up into the dormer, which is the same detail that's on the side. See, those second floor walls go straight up into the dormer wall. But what we've done is we've pushed this whole gable element back, so it's more or less a dormer window. It's not a gable that continues up from the floor below. So we have minimized it and pushed it back and made it smaller. Yes.
Yes, turn it on, it's better. I just want to make sure I'm understanding you. The attic, the whole roof line is only 6 feet from the floor, even including any of the dormers. So it would be pretty much unusable?
No, just the gables on the sides.
Okay.
The main ridge is higher. There's a main ridge.
Which is how much higher?
It goes up to about 10 feet.
Okay.
There's a section on some of your drawings, I believe.
And how was the original, was there access to this attic area?
Yes, there is an existing stair
There is.
that, if I go back, I can show you on this existing second floor. There's an existing stair that's accessed, however, it's rather awkward because you have to go through a bedroom to get to it. So this is the existing second floor plan. You have to go into this bedroom, and there's a door. It looks like a closet door, and you open it, and it's this tiny winding little stair, and that's what gets you up to the attic. So we're proposing to have a larger, more accessible stair in the main hallway of that second floor.
And the windows in the original dormers and in the proposed new one are similar?
Yes, we'll have artistic millwork who makes custom windows for historic reproduction windows, and they're local. They would make those windows for us.
Okay.
And at this point, we're the windows in the new gable, we are proposing matching same windows. This is the existing gable. So the windows, I think there's like 12 divided lights. They're 30 inches by 36 inches in height. And they have, maybe you can see a little bit better here. There's numerous divided lights. You can get to that detail.
Do you have any other? Yeah. Okay, David?
In general, I think the project's quite attractive, and I appreciate the attention to all of the original details. But I am wondering about the standard number 9, which is that additions are compatible yet differentiated from
Yes.
the original, and what's the differentiation?
Well, we really thought a lot about that because, of course, we want a future person in the future to decipher what's actually original and what's not. But just given the composition of the addition, where it's located, how it flows from the existing house, in terms of the siding and all the treatments of the moldings, I think it would be somewhat awkward to do something different. I think just how it's set up on that side, we need to match it. So this is the existing, the addition here, because this is going to be a continuous wall from the existing house. It's almost necessary for us to try to match it.
I think the railing on that deck works perfectly because that's not a common rail on the house. That's
Yes.
fine. And I don't really have a problem matching it, but it's one of the issues. I mean, it's a very difficult line to walk where you want to be compatible, sensitive to the original, especially a house which has very strong features
Yes.
like this.
Yes.
And at the same time differentiate. Maybe the differentiation actually is the fact that to a trained and experienced eye, the new materials really are new and they're not
Yes.
old.
One thing I think we could do, which might be a way to mitigate that, is where the addition occurs, which is here, maybe what we could do is at each corner, there's actually a corner trim, a 7-inch flat trim band, which this is the existing condition of it there. Maybe what we do is continue that trim band here, which would make it easy for the person who's doing the siding. They could just have the trim band, which would end the historic siding, and then on the right side of the trim band would be the new siding. So that could be one small minor detail, and that could be a sort of a line of demarcation between what's existing and what's new. We couldn't necessarily do that in the belt course because of the curvature of it, but
Sure.
that could be a way that we could decipher what was existing and what's new.
I think I'm, thanks. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question on that, and it is this very question of 40 years from now, what will the public see, and will they be able to see the strong vertical lines of your photographs have shown beautifully that the vertical lines are very strong. And did you ever consider stepping back that addition a little bit so that it would clearly still keep that corner? Because I think you're right, the corners are very important, and people would look at it and say, oh, I guess that was all part of one thing, because it will be one long, straight piece of the house, whereas right now, you have from the front, you have the tower, you have a space of board siding, you have a bay window that comes out, and you have almost an equivalent space of board siding. So there was real design put into that side, and how do we make that feel that the addition was put on the back? True, Victorians usually had very small service entries at the back.
Yes, we actually did consider doing that. We had a very productive meeting with Stephen O'Connell and Arnold, the consulting
With
architect.
whom?
Stephen O'Connell and Arnold, who's the consulting architect.
Oh.
And we did discuss that. We did talk about, this is, the shaded area is the addition, pulling it back.
Yes.
But in terms of the use of this room, it really didn't work for the interior space to have those because what we were attempting to do is open up this entire space and make it a big, large, wonderful kitchen. To have that notch in both of these corners was a bit of a challenge. We did consider it. We tried to make it work with the floor plan, but it was awkward for the room. So that's why we elected just to continue the entire addition to match the existing width of that space.
Did you consider, even if it's for the first floor kitchen that you're protecting, would you consider perhaps dropping just the deck in some?
The deck meaning?
On the second floor.
Oh, the balcony?
Yeah, the balcony, which has a flat floor to it.
Yes. Well, that might just create challenges on the exterior because of that continuous belt course. If we step that in.
Okay, we'll have comments later.
So, Margaret, I think,
We did consider it, but
yeah.
we just elected to do this approach just because it was more simple and straightforward. But I do agree that the corner would demarc the historic part and the new part.
Yeah, I'm not really comfortable redesigning your work, and so I'm not suggesting that. But maybe, I tried to imagine this, moving the deck in just so that corner stays there, but I don't see how that works with the rest of the roof architecture, and it'd just make that look goofy, and that's
Be a
worse.
funny detail, yeah.
But maybe your idea, maybe you could think about that board. I like the flow of that wall, but when I compare the existing elevation to the proposed elevation, you do lose that corner. Maybe that's important, maybe not. I think if in 50 years if we actually still have this building, and I hope we do, that most people will be thrilled and delighted to see it standing, and these issues probably will never be talked about or thought of again. Anyway, you might consider that board, although I'm not sure that's the right approach, but you're the architect.
Yeah, we can certainly consider that. So
I have a modest technical question. On the basement plan, the exterior walls appear to be drawn at 6 inches. I can't, from the scale here, it looks like. My point is that most retaining walls are at least 12 inches thick.
So you're referencing this retaining wall here that creates the
Well, no,
recessed patio?
that one's not as important. It's the one back here toward the street where you have the shower and the toilet, and you show a 6-inch wall, and that's the new wall, and that's in the ground as far as I can tell.
Well, our next step is to obviously have this engineered so that this is actually the existing thickness of the wall. There is a retaining wall, there is a concrete retaining wall that does come up just above the grade. So
there should be another line on this drawing.
Yeah, I'm sure once this is all engineered and we get all the proper sizing of the new footings, the interior spaces might, the walls might be thickened, and the interior might come in a few inches in each room. So that's something that we'll have to adjust once we get the information from the engineering.
Well, I mean, I just, I know a little bit about basements. So having done 30 or 40 here in Palo Alto, I would say, it's kind of blasé to say, well, we'll work it out later, but the retaining walls can be done in 6 inches, I think, but typically they're 10, 12, 14 inches. And that kind of changes the entire lower level plan. And if the old retaining walls are really 6 inches, that's kind of scary. So, and they were done a long time ago. They might not have any steel in them. Wow.
Yeah, we're starting to investigate that now.
Well, I think it has an impact on the design. That's why I'm concerned that, you know, the walls get thicker. That sort of works its way up the line here, and your plans inside may not work because you've got to allow for 6 inches of, okay.
Well, in order to make that basement really happen, the current basement is partially built out as an apartment, which is this side, but the ceilings are less than they're like 7 feet 3 inches. They're less than 8 feet. Then this is the other unfinished side of the existing basement, and most of it has a dirt floor.
Okay.
So we're going to have to excavate that entire basement. So we are going to be going through a lot of engineering, and
Yep.
that's what we
Okay.
have to look forward to.
All right. Any other questions? I think we have.
I wanted also, I have a color board of these are just actually the existing colors that are currently on the house. And so I put them together for you to see the existing colors. And this is the same palette that we would continue to use for the remodel edition. And the house has actually been, I think, painted within the last couple of years. So this is the current palette that's on the house.
I think, any other questions from the board? Then I think the next is to take public comments. I do have a card from Susan Wilson. If you'd like to come forward and state your name. And I thought that was great.
I'm Susan Wilson. I live directly next. If Cambridge existed, I live exactly right next door to Ken's house. And okay, and I have a couple of questions. My first question is the 6,000 square foot limit that Palo Alto has. And I don't understand it from the plans, and I didn't understand it when Margaret talked, what that means, because I didn't see the new garage in that figure. So is it truly 6,000 square feet is my question on that. So I would like to have that looked at. The other thing is that my understanding of getting a variance, which is what I assume is happening with this extra dormer, is there has to be a justification of the dormer, and I don't see any justification at all, and it's usually in the form of the needs of the family or the needs of the people living in there, spoken in that way. That's no longer the case?
They're asking for a home improvement exception, which is different from the variance. The home improvement exception came about in the 80s when the council was getting inundated with variances for requests of minor floor area changes, and then they finally said, help. And so they created the home improvement exception, which is a minor variance in a sense. So it's a very usable and kind of been a very large success, but it does require certain requirements, but they're not as rigid as a variance. A variance requires something pretty weird with your property and not necessarily the house. A home improvement exception allows you takes into account some odd items within your home, the structure of the home, which makes it difficult to live within, and you need an exception up to 100 square feet of extra square feet, and a daylight plane exception, things like that. So it's been a big, I think, saving time for staff and the council to have the home improvement exception created. So it's my understanding here they're requesting a home improvement exception, but not a variance, and staff can correct me if that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. The home improvement exception, there are limits to that. It's only for existing homes, and so I'm happy to speak with you after to share that part of the code.
Yeah, the third issue is a heritage oak, which didn't get discussed, but there's a beautiful oak on this property, and I'm hoping that the city will use this opportunity it now has irrigation in the foot of it because there's some annuals planted, and I hope that in complying with what has to be done in preservation of that oak, that gets removed and that oak tree continues to live. It's very stressed, and this is just making it a little bit worse.
I think that's well within the boundary of a staff report or whatever. Yeah, oak trees are.
Yeah. And other than that, because this is on the other side of me, I don't see a problem with it, what he's planning on doing with that. I would love it if the windows could be narrow like the windows are, but I understand from the kitchen that, I mean, that house has gorgeous, long, elongated windows. It would be lovely if that could be continued in the back. But I guess there might be a reason for that not to happen. But
Well, in part because some of the newer windows in the back and the side are in the kitchen.
right,
they
yeah,
start
that's
up
what I mean.
higher,
I just
yeah.
heard Margaret say
Okay.
that, yeah. But I think it will be a nice addition, and it's not offensive to me, is what I'm saying.
Thank you. Where's David? Provided me with my outline here, so applicant closing comments, if you'd like to. And any other, no more questions, I guess. Okay? Yeah, okay.
In closing, I just wanted to touch on the fact that our approach to this project was, here we have an absolute gem, I think, of architecture that should be preserved and should be maintained, and our current owner is a wonderful steward of this house. He's taking remarkable care of it. And in honor of that, we really tried to mitigate the impact that this remodel is going to have to it. So in terms of the footprint of the addition, we tried to keep it somewhat similar to the existing service porch that we're hoping to remove. And then developing the basement will offer a lot more livable space to the house, but it also structurally upgrade the house, which will ensure its future a lot more than the existing structural integrity that it has right now. So I think even though the development in the basement will probably affect the interior layout as you currently see it right now, just because of the structural requirements, overall it will be a benefit to this house to upgrade the structure of it. And then one thing I wanted to mention, but I didn't, in terms of privacy on the side that we're doing the development, and with the new third floor attic dormer with the window, the second floor balcony that looks out, there's a wonderful majestic oak tree right there, and the distance between the house and the adjacent neighbor is, I would venture to say, 100 feet or so. So with the distance between that neighbor on Cambridge side and the majestic oak tree, I don't think privacy is going to be a tremendous issue, even with that balcony.
The drawing actually does not show the oak as large a canopy as it actually has.
Yes.
It's indicated, the little dragged lines this way, it does show it going all the way over to the home.
And also, one of the additions to the last revision of the drawings was in reference to that tree, and how we agree that with the addition and alterations to the house, we won't even trim the tree. I believe that's on there now. We have no intention of touching that tree beyond just maintaining it. So that is one of the conditions of what we're doing, and that's one of the reasons why we didn't do that second floor addition, because we wanted to allow that tree to have light and space. So
I assume you've got a survey?
yes, we have a survey.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. We now move on to close the public hearing and board motions and discussions. What is staff expecting from us today in the board?
Staff requests that the HRB provide confirmation of the findings for Secretary of Interior standards compliance. These we will use in our deliberations regarding the home improvement exception, and make conditions of approval because it is a discretionary action.
Board members, comments, discussion?
Thank you. I still have major concerns about the differentiation of the old and the new, and also that the historic character of the property shall be retained and preserved. And I feel like that some of the real impact of this house will be lost by not seeing the original shape, and that the balcony is a strong horizontal line that kind of changes the effect of all of the vertical lines that we have seen. So I have concerns of those two standards.
I share some of the concerns that Beth has just mentioned. However, I think in years to come, I mean, people are going to, any observers will probably realize that the whole back of the house has been preserved, rehabilitated, changed, just by nature of having another staircase going below grade and a patio and all of the things that wouldn't have been done back in the, the turn of the century. And I do understand what Margaret said about if they changed anything on that, the new dormer, it wouldn't fit in with what is below it on the first floor. I think the comment made by the public too about the windows not being as long and narrow or so, classically done in Victorian, Queen Anne style buildings. So I think there's so many different windows being changed. It's hard right now at this point for me to quite grasp how different the new windows are going to be and the widths. I think that is also an important thing that should be reviewed. That the windows still remain very vertical. I don't know if you could make the patio into two separate doors or instead of one. I really didn't look at that very closely, but I'm speaking about Beth's comment about how the long horizontal, how many feet long is that going to be exactly? Maybe the width of the balcony.
The second floor balcony.
Yeah.
It extends 6 feet from.
It's 6 feet out, correct, but
Right, and it's the width of the house.
But how long is it across?
20 feet? 16 feet long? Okay. So that wouldn't probably lend itself to making it two separate. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
I guess my feeling, as I've expressed in other reviews of buildings of this significance, is that I think we're lucky as a city that residents are willing to spend substantial amounts of money to renovate them, bring them into a more contemporary and serviceable use, but still retain the character of the building, which is extraordinarily important, I think, from our historical record. And so I tend to be a little more forgiving about making changes that conform to our current living styles. My house is 20 years younger than this one, and I too have very tall windows because there was no electricity when my house and this building were built, and so large windows were the only way you got light in during the day. Of course, we now have electricity in our buildings, and we don't need large windows, and we have other design restrictions that make them smaller. But I don't see that the window size in the kitchen, for instance, in the kitchen windows, is a significant detractor from the house and the original style, because the house has many windows that are different sizes. They have the dormer windows, which are effectively square, but all the windows in the building retain their rectangular shape, which I think is the important part. Also, I think that the dormer is, I actually have no problem with the dormer, the new dormer. I think it's appropriately sized. I think it's carefully smaller than the original roof size of that roof. And in fact, it mimics the other dormers on the building, even though it's a little bit different in position, which of course I think is important because that's how we differentiate. That dormer is a new one from the original ones. The siding issue and that kitchen, the deck, second story deck, I think is well differentiated but compatible. It's the same material style, and I like that. I think that was a good solution rather than having full height baluster and rail. So in general, I think it's pretty carefully done, and it's very difficult to do additions to a building of this unique, with these unique characteristics. So I'll support the project as it's presented. If you can think of a way to make that differentiate the new addition from the kitchen, and I don't see any easy way to do that, but something that you think is attractive, then I think that's only makes the project better. Let's see. So I think, and again, in terms of square footage, one of the things we're trying to do here as a board is to encourage homeowners to retain and improve these buildings, and by allowing more square footage, I think that helps provide what I would consider minimal incentive to do this. So we're under 6,000 square feet by either calculation. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, thank you. A couple of things that I keep when I'm looking at the drawings is basically the front of the house is over on the side. So the perception of this home is different from when it was built, probably. There must have been a street or a road possibly, 200 or 300 feet away at one point. And so it's a little, it's kind of a little backwards, because if the street was actually out in front of this house, which is the front, we wouldn't be worried much about the back because it's the rear of the home, and so we don't worry about it. So when you drive by this home, it's somewhat difficult to actually see the front of the house, and what you see with the driveway and everything is the rear of the home. So I would say that I think it's generally worked. I mean, because my initial reaction was that when you see the side of the home, the dormer really does change the impact of the side view of the home. There's this large blob out on top up here, which is not there now, and it does have an impact. Well, on the drawing it does. Now that the actual dormer is set back from the house such that it may not be as obvious as I'm thinking. So from that sense, it's not really, it's not the front. It actually is the rear of the house, but from the street, it's the front. But, I think the preservation of the majority of the home is really good. I would caution maybe staff to, maybe in our comments, we suggest that if the project changes dramatically because of the structural requirement for the walls, that we get a chance to review it. Because the basement shouldn't have any impact, but we never know if they end up having dramatically changed something somewhere else. We should probably get a chance to review it. We just give you a recommendation, is that correct? And then you write you either grant the HIE or not.
Yes, staff will be reviewing the HIE and findings for the HIE, home improvement exception, and action would include a consideration of recommendation by the HRB, as well as any conditions of approval that you recommend.
And this doesn't go to ARB, does it?
No, it does not.
Okay. So I think in overall, it's going to be quite a nice project, and it's will make the home dramatically more usable. And also, I guess the question is, are you going to be doing seismic upgrades for the upper part? Okay, so that might have an impact on the design as well. So is there someone prepare a motion? David, or
Am I the only person that does this?
yeah, well, you're good at it. You're a good motion maker.
I would recommend that we approve the project as meeting the Secretary of the Interior standards. As noted in the report, that it meets all of the standards, and also that I wasn't mentioned, but I think the color palette is exceptionally good for the building. I don't think there's any other conditions that we need to address at this time other than those included in the what page? Attachment B. Oh dear. Okay. And the only other condition would be, as Roger pointed out, if there are any significant changes in the work drawings at this point, that it be returned to the HRB for further review.
Modest addition, I might say, is that the oak tree does add to the value of the historic site, and that conditions be that it be looked at and by an arborist and taken care of. It's already in there.
So are you asking to make a friendly amendment, Chair Kohler?
I guess so. Yes, I'm asking. This is the standard tree data here, and I'm just saying that since it's a very old tree, it kind of contributes to the ambiance of the historic structure, that it be looked at as best we can.
It's actually the 52-inch valley oak.
52-inch valley oak, thank you.
I would just want to clarify, Pat, that in the conditions of approval, there are references to an HRB subcommittee or city staff, and I wonder if you would be willing to specify that it be a subcommittee rather than either or. An HRB subcommittee. That's in, excuse me, condition 3, 4, and 8.
What page is that?
It's the attachment B, the conditions of approval that the staff has prepared for us.
Friendly amendment, I would second that.
Also included for the conditions of approval is that the HRB have a subcommittee, as noted on, I can't.
It's okay. Just read through.
Okay. Page.
Actually, 9.
I didn't hear second, did you?
9.
I need to second.
I don't have a page 9.
Can I ask, before there are any further friendly amendments, I haven't heard a second to the original motion. Is that something that I missed?
No, I think what I just recommended, that on attachment B, that the subcommittee be appointed by our group, the HRB.
So I was
As
asking a
needed.
question of clarification, so that then I wanted to second it, but I wanted to get the clarification first. So if you need a second, I'll second it. Yeah, I'm seconding the main motion with the provision that the HRB subcommittee be established where noted in the conditions of approval. Now, Roger, you want to make a friendly amendment about the tree?
I'd like to make a friendly amendment about the tree, that it has, I don't know what I'm trying to say, is that the historic, the tree is part of the historic fabric of the site, and that it ought to have some attendance to maintain its health. Kind of a weird way to say it, but is that okay?
Yes, that should be included.
Okay.
And we have just, to go over this, not beating a dead horse, but that instead of further review by city staff, the HRB subcommittee would be the persons to review any changes in materials and colors, so on and so forth.
So okay. Pat, just to be clear, that you're referring to item 3, item 4, item 8, and item 9, is that correct? Because those are the 4 places
correct.
That it's staff or, okay, but the rest is staff. Mm-hmm. Right, we don't want to be doing final inspections. So I'll accept Roger's friendly amendment as a seconder.
Okay.
Could I get clarification? So the friendly amendment that Roger proposed is actually an additional condition of approval that we're going to place on this.
About the tree.
Yes, that would be called a condition of approval.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that is really spoken to in item number 4, that the applicant shall review the landscape plan with the HRB subcommittee, which would then include the oak tree maybe suffering from fungus. Seems to be, that's happening in my yard.
Thank you. Yes, so we could actually modify condition number 4 to, express the oak tree specifically as a concern and careful attention to, et cetera, irrigation or what have you.
Correct.
Sorry, no irrigation.
Okay. Well, there's been a motion and an amendment. Any discussion further?
Ready for a vote?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, that, I think, passes 3 votes to 1. I think that's it, right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck on your project. We'll come driving by to see it. So, okay.
No subcommittee meetings?
Yes, we do have a subcommittee today regarding 221 Kingsley, and the members that were assigned at the August 6th meeting were David, Patricia, and Beth for that subcommittee item. So we can adjourn the meeting, and if you'd like, come down to this table.
Correct.
And
It's not me, right?
thank you. Oh, and then, so a matter of board business. We've adjourned the item. And the subcommittee for the Amherst project, I can just say the way the ARB does the subcommittee is there's a rotation. So there's 2-3 months, one subcommittee, and then they're done, and then you get to the next so that we can have regular subcommittee items, and who you are for the months of September, October, et cetera. So you don't have to appoint a subcommittee for each item.
Okay, well, we don't meet quite as often as the ARB, so. I mean, sometimes we have to, send out the doves to announce that we have a meeting because we're kind of remote, so, okay.
Maybe we should just appoint the 2
But wouldn't
absent
the
members.
subcommittee logically be the 3 people who voted yes?
So we can go ahead and assign that if that's the chair's prerogative to say.
Well, it's probably the best way to go, yes. The 3, very, very observant. Thank you. Board members, staff's announcements, updates, reports, comments. Members of the public may not speak to the items. Okay. Anything from staff we need to know? When's our next meeting, do we know? Is there?
We did not advertise for September 3rd because we had no items at that point. I would, let's see, do we have a quorum for the next meeting, perhaps?
So September 3rd is canceled.
Yes, we did not send an ad to the newspaper yesterday for that
The next one
meeting,
would be
so, which means there is no meeting.
Possible meeting might be the 17th if something comes up.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll let you know by email whether there's an item percolating for that meeting.
Beth, you're not here for the 3rd.
Right, I'm not here for the 3rd, so
But
that's
there's
lucky.
But there is no meeting
with
then.
anybody else, so,
Yeah, all right.
okay. So is there any members of the public? Oh, they may not speak. Okay, we've already done that. Okay. And does will the varsity theater come back to us as well, or is that a subcommittee as well?
Yeah, I believe that was a subcommittee item to return.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we were on that, too.
Beth?
Let's see. I have a concern that was voiced by a member of the public, which has to do with the historic Greer Barn, which is at 51 Encina. And if you remember that far back, why, that's on the Palo Alto Medical Foundation property, and they were required to keep the house and the barn. The condition of that property appears to be going down rapidly, and particularly the barn. And I don't know what recourse we have.
That's next to the work furlough center, or whatever it is. The work center, the house that's next to the work center, right?
The
Put your mic on. Put your
Opportunity center.
Yeah, the Opportunity
Right.
Center is there, and then next to it on Encina
Right.
is this, or very close to it. There may be an intervening something, but at any rate, the barn has some tacky thing in front of it and is
We reviewed
tipping even more. And do we have any recourse on that kind of?
Well, my recollection of the Palo Alto Medical Foundation project is it is not a planned community. It was a zoned public facilities, but I'm not familiar with that condition of approval. It was before my time here, actually, to state that it must be maintained as a part of that project.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess,
Beth,
you know,
turn on your mic.
we could do some research to find out about that. Is the Palo Alto Medical...
Very few barns left in Palo Alto, and the Greer family, of course, was one of the early landowners. They owned a huge piece of land in there.
So do we know, we can do the research, but is that on the city's inventory?
Yes.
Okay.
I
So,
think we reviewed it, frankly, about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, didn't
Okay.
we?
I
I thought so.
think so, but
We'll,
it could have been longer than that.
Yeah.
your new HRB liaison will do some research on this matter.
Thank you.
We will get back to you in the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements or discussion? Yes. So our next meeting is maybe in September or possibly October, I guess, depending on.
I imagine we will have one at the end of September, as we do have some subcommittee items. I would just explain again, you know, if it's a regularly occurring subcommittee, we put it on the agenda and for HRB meetings. Of course, if you're not having meetings, we could have a subcommittee separate from the meeting, you know, formal meeting time. So if the need arises before the end of September to have a subcommittee, we will be contacting you and arranging that.
Has there been any discussion or mention of the possibility of the HRB meeting with the city council members?
Yes, I would think as the chair you would receive notification about that. I will send out a note of, there is a date that is tentative date. I believe it's in October, early October. I will go ahead and send that out to the board, or have Christy send that to the board as far as that meeting date. And
I think I remember now.
my understanding is that you might want to have a discussion prior to that as a board. So if we can agendize that for the second meeting of September, a discussion regarding items to discuss with the council, if you'd like. We can go ahead and plan on that.
Yeah, we do that. We get a nice list of agenda items, and they're never talked about. So, but we can try again.
You can try.
We can try again, yes.
I think it is helpful to have a board meeting to talk about that prior to your, because there will be a pre-joint meeting with the chair, vice chair, and mayor, vice mayor. And so it would be good to.
Well, we've never had that, so that would be a good thing.
No, we've had that.
Have
When
we?
I was chair, we had
Really?
that, yeah.
But I just always remember the meetings end up talking about random stuff rather than historic. But, okay, if that's anything else, then staff, nothing, then the meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for coming. See you in 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Thank you.
T-cell receptor, it actually changes the DNA.
That's interesting. So the same way that like your mitochondria DNA is